I'm 78 years old, and I need to tell you something that nobody told me. Something I wish someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and screamed into my face when I was your age. For 60 years of my life, I believed that being good meant disappearing. I believed that putting everyone else first made me worthy, that saying yes when I wanted to say no made me lovable, that shrinking myself small enough to fit into other people's expectations was the path to happiness. I was wrong about everything. 3 years ago, something happened that shattered the story I'd been telling myself my entire adult life. It broke me open, and in that breaking, I finally saw the truth. I had wasted 60 years of waiting, 60 years of postponing, 60 years of telling myself, maybe later, maybe when things calm down, maybe when everyone else is taken care of. And you know what I discovered? Later never comes. Things never calm down. And if you spend your whole life taking care of everyone else, you wake up one day at 75 years old and realize you don't even know who you are anymore. You look in the mirror and see a stranger. That's what happened to me. I'm telling you this because I don't want it to happen to you. I don't have much time left. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10, maybe less. But I refuse to leave this world without saying what I should have said decades ago. You are not selfish for having dreams. You are not selfish for wanting things. You are not selfish for taking care of yourself. And the people who taught you otherwise, even the ones who loved you, were wrong. Sit with me for a few minutes. Let me tell you what 60 years of being the good daughter cost me. And maybe, just maybe, you won't have to learn this lesson the hard way. 3 years ago, my mother died. She was 97 years old. I was 75. And I had spent the last 23 years as her primary caregiver. Every day, every doctor's appointment, every meal, every crisis. I was the good daughter. My sister Margaret had moved to California in 1972. She built a career, had adventures, married twice, traveled the world. Our mother called her selfish, said she had abandoned the family, said she only cared about herself, and I believed it. So I stayed in our small town in Ohio. I stayed close to our parents. I stayed available, always available, for phone calls at 2 a.m, for emergency hospital trips, for holidays that revolved around everyone else's needs. I was the good one. On the day of my mother's funeral, something happened that changed everything. Margaret flew in from San Diego. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. And when she walked through the door of the funeral home, I felt something I wasn't expecting, envy. She looked alive. At 73 years old, my sister walked with energy. Her eyes had a sparkle. She had stories to tell about the pottery class she was taking, the trip to Portugal she'd just returned from, the memoir she was writing about our grandmother. She had lived, and me. I stood there in my black dress, exhausted. I had spent the last 2 decades of my life in that exhaustion. My hair had gone gray years ago. My dreams had gone silent even longer before that. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done something just for myself. After the service, I went to my mother's house to begin sorting through her things. And that's when I found it. In a box in her closet, buried under old sweaters, there was a photograph. It was me. I was 18 years old in that picture, standing in front of an easel, paintbrush in hand, laughing at something off camera. My hair was long and wild. My eyes were bright. I was wearing paint-splattered jeans and a T-shirt that said, "Art is life." I stared at that photograph for a long time, and I didn't recognize her. That girl, that vibrant, dreaming, alive girl, had wanted to go to art school. She had wanted to move to New York City. She had wanted to paint and create and explore the world. What happened to her? I happened to her. Or rather, I let other people happen to her. I remembered the conversation with my mother the week before I was supposed to leave for art school. She had sat me down at the kitchen table and said, "Someone needs to stay. Someone needs to be responsible. Your sister won't do it. It has to be you." And I said yes. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to be good. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be the daughter she could be proud of. So I unpacked my bags, and I never packed them again. Standing in that closet, holding that photograph of my 18-year-old self, I felt something crack inside me. 60 years of holding everything together, 60 years of being strong, 60 years of pretending I didn't have needs of my own. It all came flooding out. I sat on the floor of my dead mother's closet, and I cried. Not for her, for me, for the girl in that photograph who never got to live. For all the paintings I never painted, for the adventures I never had, for the version of myself I had buried so deep I'd forgotten she existed. That was the moment everything changed. At 75 years old, I finally asked myself the question I should have asked at 18. What do I want? And I had no idea how to answer. Let me tell you how I spent 60 years. I spent them waiting. When I was 22, I met a man named David. He was an architect. He had plans to move to Boston and start his own firm. He asked me to come with him. He said he loved me. He said we could build a life together. I wanted to go. God, I wanted to go. But my mother said, "You can't leave now. Your father's health is getting worse. He needs you here. David will wait if he really loves you." So I told David I couldn't leave yet. I said, "Maybe in a year when things settle down." He waited 6 months. Then he moved to Boston without me. I told myself, it's okay. There will be other chances, other men, other adventures. I have time. So I waited. When I was 28, I had a chance to take a teaching position at an art school in Chicago. It wasn't New York, but it was something, a foot in the door, a chance to do what I loved. My mother said, "That's too far away. What if something happens? What about your father?" My father said, "Go, live your life." But his voice was quiet and my mother's voice was loud. So I stayed. I told myself, there will be other opportunities. I'm still young. I have time. So I waited. At 35, I finally met someone. His name was Robert. He was kind, steady. He didn't set my soul on fire like David had, but he was good to me. He proposed. My mother said, "He's not ambitious enough. He'll never give you the life you deserve." Robert wasn't who she had pictured for me. He came from a working-class family. He fixed cars for a living. He didn't have a college degree. But he made me laugh, and he looked at me like I was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to ignore my mother's voice in my head, but I didn't. I told Robert I wasn't ready. I said, maybe in a few years, when things are more settled. He waited a year. Then he married someone else. I cried for a week, in secret, because good daughters don't make messes. Good daughters don't show their pain. So I waited. At 43, my father died. I thought, now I can finally live. Now I can finally do the things I've been putting off. But my mother was alone now, grieving. She needed me more than ever. Just stay a little longer, I told myself, just until she's back on her feet. So I waited. At 52, I had saved enough money to take a trip to Italy. I had dreamed about it for 30 years, the art, the history, the light. I had guidebooks stacked on my nightstand. I had studied Italian on cassette tapes. But my mother's hip surgery came up, and someone needed to take care of her recovery. I'll go next year, I said. So I waited. At 60, my mother moved in with me. Her health was declining. She needed around-the-clock care. It's just temporary, I told myself. It wasn't temporary. At 65, I stopped painting. I didn't have time. I didn't have energy. I didn't have room in my life for anything that wasn't taking care of someone else. At 70, I realized I hadn't left my town in 8 years. I hadn't seen a friend in 3. I hadn't done anything that brought me joy in so long I couldn't remember what joy felt like. And still, I waited. For what? I don't know. Some future version of my life that was always around the next corner. Some magical someday when everything would finally slow down and I could finally breathe and finally live. That day never came. It never comes. I had the reputation. I had the respect. I had everyone telling me how wonderful I was, but I didn't have a life. Let me tell you the biggest lie you're probably telling yourself right now. I have time. I'll do it later. When things calm down, then I'll focus on myself. Let me save you 60 years of regret with one simple truth. That day never comes. Things never calm down. There is always another crisis, another obligation, another person who needs something from you. And if you keep waiting for the perfect moment to start living, you will die waiting. I know this because I lived it. I had time when I was 18. I had time when I was 25. I had time when I was 30, 40, 50, and I wasted all of it. Not on bad things, not on selfish things. I wasted it on being good. And here's the lie nobody tells you about being good. Being good can destroy you. We're taught, especially those of us who grew up female in a world that demands our compliance, that self-sacrifice is noble, that putting everyone else first makes us worthy, that our value comes from how much we give, not from who we are. It's a lie, a beautiful, terrible lie. I gave everything, my time, my energy, my dreams, my identity. I gave until there was nothing left. And you know what I got in return? Not love, not happiness, not even gratitude. Just exhaustion and an empty house and a stranger in the mirror. Here's another lie. They'll appreciate it later. No, they won't. My mother never thanked me for staying. She expected it. It was just what I did. When she died, she didn't leave me a letter telling me how grateful she was. She left me a list of things she wished I had done differently. 60 years of service, and still not enough. Don't you see? You cannot earn love through sacrifice. You cannot make yourself worthy through self-destruction. The people who require you to disappear in order to love you don't actually love you. They love what you do for them. And when you stop doing it, they will find someone else. I know that's hard to hear. It was hard for me to accept, but it's true. Here's the lie that nearly killed me. Good people put others first. No, good people have boundaries. Good people take care of themselves so they can take care of others. Good people know that self-care isn't selfish, it's survival. I spent 60 years running on empty, pouring from a cup that was bone dry, and I convinced myself that was virtue, that was love, that was what good daughters do. But it wasn't love, it was fear. Fear that if I stopped giving, I would stop mattering. Fear that if I said no, I would be abandoned. Fear that if I lived for myself, I would become like my sister. Someone my mother called selfish and ungrateful. And you know what? My sister is happy. My sister has a life. My sister has stories and adventures and a sense of herself that I lost somewhere around 1964. Who was right? Was I the good daughter, or was I just the daughter who was too afraid to leave? I don't know anymore, but I know this. If I had to do it over again, I would choose differently. And I'm telling you this so you don't have to make the same choice I did. You want to know what keeps me up at night? Not the big things, not the obvious things. It's the small moments, the specific memories that play on repeat at 3 a.m. when sleep won't come. The trip to Italy I never took. I had the guidebooks. I had studied the language. I had saved the money, and I let it slip away, year after year, until the guidebooks were outdated and the cassette tapes were obsolete, and my knees couldn't handle the cobblestone streets anymore. Florence, Rome, Venice. I will never see them now. The phone call I didn't make, David, the man who wanted to take me to Boston, he called me once, 15 years after he left. He was passing through Ohio. He wanted to see me, to catch up, maybe to see if there was still something there. I was too afraid to call him back. What would I say? That I had wasted 15 years waiting for nothing. That I thought about him every time I saw the Boston skyline on television. I didn't call. He died in 2003. Heart attack. I read about it in his obituary. We never spoke again. The paintings I never painted. I used to dream in color. I used to see the world as compositions, light and shadow, form and texture. I used to fill sketchbooks with ideas, with visions, with pieces of my soul translated into images. Where did they go? Somewhere around 45, I stopped seeing the world that way. The colors faded, the compositions disappeared. I had neglected that part of myself for so long that it simply died. I have a studio in my house now. I set it up after my mother passed. There are canvases and paints and brushes. I sit in there sometimes, but the visions don't come anymore. The words I never said. I never told my father that I stayed for him too, that I loved him, that I wished he had fought harder for me to go. He died thinking I resented him. Maybe I did. I don't know anymore. I never told Robert that I loved him, that turning down his proposal was the biggest mistake of my life, that I thought about him for years afterward, wondering what our children would have looked like. I never told my mother that she was wrong, that her fear wasn't wisdom, that keeping me close didn't keep her safe. It just made us both prisoners. All those words stuck in my throat. For 60 years, the friendship I let die. Her name was Susan. We were best friends from kindergarten through high school. She was the one person who really knew me, the one person I could be myself with. She moved to New York after graduation, became a photographer, lived the life I dreamed about. We wrote letters for a while, then phone calls, then Christmas cards, then nothing. I let it fade, because it hurt too much to stay connected to the life I wasn't living. Susan died in 2019. I found out through Facebook. She had been gone for 6 months before I even knew. That's what I regret. Not the big dramatic choices. Those I can almost justify, almost explain. But the small surrenders, the daily decisions to put myself last, the slow, quiet disappearance of everything that made me who I was. That's what haunts me. After my mother's funeral, I made a decision. I was 75 years old. I had maybe 10 years left, maybe less. And I was done waiting. For the first time in 60 years, I asked myself what I wanted. And then I did it. I enrolled in art classes at the community college, not because I thought I'd become a famous painter, not because I had anything to prove, but because that 18-year-old girl in the photograph deserved to be remembered. I was terrified. I walked into that classroom full of students, young enough to be my grandchildren, and I almost turned around and walked out, but I didn't. I sat down, I picked up a brush, and I painted. It was awful, truly terrible. My hands shook. My eyes weren't what they used to be. The colors didn't come out the way I remembered, but I was there. I was finally there. I started saying no. When my cousin called asking me to host Thanksgiving, like I had for 30 years, I said no. I went to a restaurant instead, by myself, and I enjoyed every minute of it. When the church asked me to run the bake sale, like I had for 2 decades, I said no. I spent that Saturday in my studio instead. When everyone expected me to be the one who organized, who showed up, who sacrificed, I stopped. And you know what happened? Nothing. The world didn't end. People found someone else. Life went on. All those years, I thought I was indispensable. I thought everything would fall apart without me. It didn't. I was never as necessary as I believed. I was just available. I took a trip, not to Italy. My body couldn't handle that anymore. But I went to Santa Fe by myself for 2 weeks. I stayed in a little adobe hotel. I visited art galleries. I ate green chile, everything. I watched the sunset over the mountains and I cried. Not sad tears, relief. I was finally living. At 76 years old, I was finally actually living. I'm 78 now. I've been living for myself for 3 years, 3 years out of 78, and these have been the best 3 years of my life. I'm not saying everything is perfect. My body is failing. My energy is limited. I can't do half the things I wish I could, but I'm happy. For the first time in 60 years, I can say that honestly. I'm happy. Not because my circumstances are ideal, they're not, but because I finally gave myself permission to exist, to want things, to take up space. I'm not the good daughter anymore. I'm just me, and that's enough. Now I need to talk to you. Yes, you. The one who's been nodding along, recognizing pieces of yourself in my story. The one who's thinking, that's sad, but it won't happen to me. Let me ask you something. If you died tomorrow, would you be satisfied with the life you've lived so far? Not, would people say nice things at your funeral? Not, did you accomplish enough? Not, were you a good person? Just, would you be satisfied? Would you feel like you lived, like you tasted life, like you wrung every drop of experience and joy and meaning out of your time here? Or would you feel like you were always preparing to live, always waiting for the right moment, always putting yourself last? Be honest, I know what you're thinking. But my situation is different. But I have responsibilities. But I can't just abandon everyone. But what about my kids, my parents, my job? I hear you. I'm not telling you to be selfish. I'm not telling you to neglect your duties. I'm not telling you to hurt the people who depend on you. I'm telling you that you matter too. I'm telling you that taking care of yourself isn't the opposite of taking care of others. It's the foundation of it. I'm telling you that the person you're waiting to become, the happy, fulfilled, alive version of yourself that you keep pushing to someday, that person is dying. Every day you wait, a little more of them dies. And one day you'll wake up at 75 years old, and they'll be gone completely. And no amount of money or time or freedom will bring them back. Is that what you want? You think you have time? You don't. You think there will be another chance? There won't. You think that once the kids are grown, once you retire, once things settle down, you'll finally have space to be yourself. You won't, because by then you won't remember who that self is. I know you're scared. I was scared too, scared of being called selfish, scared of disappointing people, scared of being alone, scared of finding out that I wasn't as necessary as I needed to believe. But here's what I learned. The fear never goes away. You don't wait until you're not afraid to start living. You start living while you're still terrified. And eventually the fear gets quieter. But the regret never gets quieter. It gets louder. Every year, every decade, every birthday that passes, the voice of regret screams a little more. Don't wait until you're 78 to hear it. Don't wait until you're sorting through a dead parent's closet, holding a photograph of someone you used to be, wondering where she went. Don't take 60 years to learn what I'm trying to teach you in 20 minutes. You deserve to live, not later, now. If I could go back and talk to my 18-year-old self, that girl with the paintbrush and the wild hair and the dreams, here's what I would say. Stop. Stop waiting for permission to live. Nobody's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, now it's your turn. You have to claim it yourself. Stop trying to earn love through sacrifice. The people who require your disappearance in order to love you don't actually love you. Find people who love you when you take up space. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Every yes that should be a no is a tiny death, a small surrender, a piece of yourself that you give away and never get back. Stop believing that your needs don't matter. They do. They matter just as much as everyone else's. You are not a supporting character in someone else's story. You are the main character in yours. Stop putting your dreams in a drawer marked someday. Someday is a lie. It's a comfortable, socially acceptable way of saying never. Start. Start asking yourself what you actually want, not what you should want, not what would make everyone else happy. What do you want? When is the last time you even asked yourself that question? Start taking up space, speak louder, ask for things, have opinions, be inconvenient sometimes. The world will not end, and the people who matter will love you more for it. Start saying no. No is a complete sentence. You don't need to explain. You don't need to apologize. You don't need to offer an alternative. Just no. Start doing one thing every week that's just for you, not for your kids, not for your partner, not for your job, something that feeds your soul, something that reminds you that you exist. Start before you're ready. You will never feel ready. That's the trap. If you wait until you feel ready, you will wait forever. Start scared, start messy, start imperfect. Just start. If you want to go back to school, go. Don't wait until your schedule clears or your kids are older or someone tells you it's okay. Enroll tomorrow. If you want to leave a relationship that's draining you, leave. Don't wait until you have a plan or until the timing is right or until you're sure. You'll never be sure. Trust yourself anyway. If you want to create something, paint, write, build, sing, create. Don't wait until you're good enough. You become good enough by doing it badly first. If you want to say something, I love you, I'm sorry, I forgive you, say it. Don't wait until the moment is perfect. The perfect moment is now, because now is the only moment you're guaranteed. Do it now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Now, I'm 78 years old. I've been living for myself for 3 years out of 78. 3.8% of my life. That's the math. That's the reality of what I lost. 60 years of waiting and 3 years of actually living. And yet, these 3 years have held more life than the 60 that came before. I've painted 37 canvases. Most of them are terrible. A few of them are okay. One of them, a sunset over the New Mexico mountains, hangs on my living room wall. Every time I look at it, I remember that I created something, that I exist, that I'm still here. I've made friends, real friends, women in my art class who laugh with me and share their stories and don't need me to be perfect, who like me for who I am, not for what I do for them. I've said no 100 times to things I used to do on autopilot, to obligations that drained me, to expectations that weren't mine to carry. And I've said yes, yes to travel, yes to rest, yes to pleasure, yes to myself. I would give anything to have those 60 years back, to have started living at 18 instead of 75, to have gone to art school, to have moved to Boston with David, to have married Robert and had children and lived a full, messy, imperfect, beautiful life. I can't get those years back. Nobody can give them to me, but you still have yours. The irony is brutal but true. When you finally understand that time is limited, you start to actually live. You stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop postponing joy. You stop waiting for permission. You start, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I spent too many years being those things. Now I'm just honest about what I lost, honest about what I learned, honest about what I hope for you. And if my honesty saves one person from making the same mistakes I made, then maybe these 60 years weren't completely wasted. Maybe they were the tuition for a lesson I was meant to teach. You have a choice right now, today, this moment. You can close this video and go back to your life exactly as it was. Keep waiting, keep sacrificing, keep disappearing into other people's expectations. Tell yourself you'll start living tomorrow, next month, next year, someday, or you can decide that someday is today. You can put down the weight you've been carrying, the weight of being good enough, perfect enough, selfless enough, and just be yourself. You can call the person you've been meaning to call. Take the trip you've been meaning to take. Start the project you've been meaning to start. Say the words you've been meaning to say. You can claim your life before it slips away. I waited 60 years. I had to hold a photograph of my 18-year-old self and realize she was gone forever before I woke up. Don't let that be your story. The permission you're waiting for, I'm giving it to you right now, today. You are allowed to want things. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to live. So live. Someday is today. It always has been. If this resonated with you, I hope you'll share it. Not for me. I'm 78. I don't need the views. But somewhere out there is a 30-year-old woman who's already starting to disappear. A 40-year-old man who's already putting off his dreams. A 50-year-old person who thinks it's too late. Maybe this will reach them before it's too late. Subscribe if you want to hear more. I have other truths to share. And honestly, I don't know how much time I have left to share them. Leave a comment. Tell me what you're going to do differently. Tell me what you've been waiting for. Tell me who you used to be before you started disappearing. I read every single one. Your time is precious. Thank you for spending some of it with me. Now go live.